This is IA Forward, your playbook for success as an independent insurance agent. Now, here to help you knock it out of the ballpark are your hosts, Shane Tatum, Tanya Lead, Mike Basil, and Robbie Jabor.
Welcome to IA Forward. I would like to say the Quad Squad is back post-holiday, but once again, Robbie is missing.
I have no idea. Like, he's just gone. Like, I don't know. I mean, he is off. I know why. I know where he is. It's not like he didn't schedule it, but I mean, he's just, how do you even start, man? Just like, hey, can we start after the first of the year when I'm back? No, he false started on us is what he's done.
He goes from chief maintenance officer to being a star of the podcast and then disappears. I don't know what that's about.
Assistant maintenance officer.
Assistant maintenance officer.
Yes. He was never.
That's assistant to you, right?
It was never the maintenance. It was actually maintenance director, but
okay.
It was never the maintenance director. He was the assistant to the maintenance director.
And you are the maintenance director.
I was the maintenance director.
Yeah. Okay.
By default.
Yeah. There you go. Very good.
I assigned everything.
We have Mike, the CEO, in training.
That's right.
In waiting.
In waiting.
Excuse me.
That's right.
And this is why I brought my concerns to you about, the facilities.
If you're following along week to week.
Yeah.
You know why. You know what we're talking about. If not, go check out our YouTube channel. You'll love it.
But if you come to visit us at our home office in Huntington, Texas, bring your own toilet paper.
Bring your own toilet paper. for a little while longer, and then you're good.
Oh, have changes been made?
Well, no, but we have to run out. So, we're not throwing stuff away over here, man. Come on. Like, we got to go through the cycle of finishing what we got. The next round, the ordering cycle will be much improved.
I feel like this is going to be a weekly update.
Pretty much.
Unfortunately, just from Costco, so it'll be 12 months before.
Yeah. No, we're not big warehouse, shoppers around here. So I don't like to store things. So we'll cycle through pretty quick, I think.
They do not store anything.
No.
At the home office, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but like if it hasn't been used in 2 weeks, it goes in the garbage.
That's right. No storing. No. Storing stuff, hoarding stuff does not give us joy. We do not do it.
The only place that we store anything is in our Atlanta office, and it is stationary.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because we have, how many boxes of letterhead do we have? And it's like some kind of crazy number.
Yeah, we ordered like, I don't know what the number of reams, but like, I think there's 500 pages in a ream or something like that of paper. And we ordered something like 10,000 letterhead because someone misinterpreted my, I guess, or I misspoke, or someone misinterpreted my statement of, if we get a good deal, go ahead and get a good supply. There's never that much of a price break to store whatever that is, 100 reams or whatever the number of reams that we have.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
We're open there.
Yeah. The funny thing was Jamie Kirkland, our branch manager there. And the funny thing was just her phone call. It's like, hey, you seen the original Santa Claus when they bring the Santa Claus?
The letter or all the
letters,
the nice and naughty list.
The nice and naughty list. That's what happened to Jamie Kirkland. Like, they kept bringing in boxes of letterhead. She's like, how many letters do you think we write up here?
Sure.
So
My goodness.
pretty good stuff.
She was like, you better order some more pens.
Yeah. I'm going to run out of ink, man. So
So today's topic is the 80-20 rule. And right now, my husband and I are on this kind of grand tour across the South. And he does Blink. I don't know if y'all familiar with Blink, where it basically you get a 20-minute version of some book. Because my husband does not have the same
I need
affinity for reading that I do.
oh,
And so he gets the Clip Notes version of
Yes.
these books, and he gets one delivered every day. And we were listening to this Blink book talking about the 80-20 rule that took it to the next level. And yes, we are going to explain what we mean by the 80-20 rule, but it took it to the next level. And not only does it say to, just kind of, anyway, go ahead and explain the 80-20 rule. And then I'm going to tell you what this book said, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
well, first of all, I need that because, I don't finish the books I start, right? I mean, I eventually finish them. So this might be something I need to check into. The 80-20 principle, also known as the Pareto Principle. It was coined by Pareto. I forget his first name, but I don't know if it's first name or last name, but basically, 80% of your profit, you can use whatever, right? I'll just use profit. 80% of your profit come from 20% of your clients, or 80% of your productivity comes from 20% of your activities. So as you just think about that, and then the inverse of that is, 80% of the stuff you're doing only leads to 20% of your productivity. And so if we want to reverse that, right? We want to spend the majority of our time on the things that produce the best results. And so that is the 80-20 rule. It's kind of been redefined to the 80-20 rule. I even push the envelope to say that could really be pushed to 85-15 in some cases, maybe even 90-10 in some cases. But 80-20 is the more popular version.
Yeah, I think one other interesting direction that I'd like to see us go here today is, as someone who worked in the service end for a long time coming in, it's also the same rule applies for the calls that are coming into your office. And how do you want to handle that? What are you going to do with that 20% of your client base that is probably 80% of your headaches? I mean, I don't think, perfect world, you would say, well, I will just tell them they're no longer clients, but that's not real life.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And the fact of the matter is you're just going to get those people over again in different forms anyway. So you need to figure out how to work through that.
From an agency ownership standpoint, couple of examples pop up really fresh in my mind. Personal lines, right? And so thinking personal lines here, if you're in your personal lines book, obviously much in the same way of, hey, I'm going to go paperless back several years ago. Maybe some people still fight with that. The only way to truly go paperless is to stop receiving paper. Like, that's a big problem. That's a big part of the problem within the insurance industry is it's hard to cut off paper from the people that feel like legally they have to send it. Insurance carriers. There's a whole regulatory issue around some of that stuff, and you can have it cut off and you can have it, sent to you electronically. Then you got to file it. I mean, the only way to really stop it or reduce it and go paperless is to stop it altogether. And that just becomes really, really difficult. One of the things that, however, that we've done in our retail operation around personal lines is that version that really bothers us is that specialty auto or non-standard auto portion of our book that I would even classify more as monoline auto. And so, you could even go further and say single policy accounts in personal lines, like that situation where you wrote their auto because you thought you were going to write their home, or you wrote their home because you were going to write their auto. A few years ago now, we made the scary decision at the time that turned out to be wonderful to put that monoline auto, monoline policy account on a reactionary service only. So we don't proactively do anything with those accounts. We write it, we put it to bed. If they call, we service it. If they don't call, we don't do anything. If it renews, it renews. Okay. And that's something that is really hard for service people to really get across and kind of get into their brain. But what we were seeing is that was at the time about 20% of our personal lines book of business, but it generated 80% at least of our problems, from always having a billing problem, always having a servicing issue. Just, they were always shopping. They were always wanting us to shop for them, right? But they wouldn't give us but their one policy. And so it just become this thing around, what are we doing? Like, why are we choosing to run ourselves ragged with this concept? And so that's just something that immediately comes to my mind where we've had success with this principle.
Yeah. I think another thing where it can be applied is, especially when you're first starting out, if you're a new independent agent, is you don't want to have too wide a scope in what you are writing in general, not just, so you use the monoline example, but I don't ever write condos, but now I'm going to go write this condo because someone brought it to me. Well, that's the same deal, right? You're going to end up having all kinds of issues with it because you're not proficient in it, and you're just causing problems for yourself. I totally understand. This is, you're starting out. You want to write something to have business on the books, but in the long run, it is going to be a pain point and it's going to make you less productive.
Yeah. So I think that's the paperless thing. Like,
yep.
You can't go paperless unless you can stop the paper from coming. Hey, one way to stop it and not get yourself in that 80-20 trap is to not write it in the first place, right? To not go down that path. That's really easy to say on a whiteboard. And I know, we know that agents, and especially starting up, we know that is extremely difficult to walk away from your focused lines of business.
So in your opinion, when you're looking at it from the top down and you're talking more about procedure and things of that nature, how do you usually go about like figuring out what that 20% is that's causing grief?
Well, obviously the systems that you use will tell you a lot. They generally give you some type of transactional data, per client, like how many clients, where are our activities coming from? You can go look at that information. You can keep it manually. I like to little ticker marks, right? I like to have our people do that because it's simple. If we don't have the tracking tool within the technology, most of the technology today, you have something that's going to give you that transactional history that's going to tell you who your heavy hitters are in terms of, that service load. I've seen more times than not, you can bank on it's going to be your monoline accounts. I mean, what's really crazy about our business in the agency business is that 3 or 4 policy account, it's like there's very little activity going on. And you would think it would be the opposite, right? You would really think that, that client that we handle 3 or 4 policies for, we handle everything they've got, would be the most heavy in terms of transaction. And that one policy account, that would be the low end. But it is actually the exact opposite of that.
That goes with any kind of sales. I mean, really and truly, the guy that comes in and writes a $40,000 account with you doesn't have time to mess with the little stuff. The person that writes the $250 account to you, that $250 means a whole lot to them. And so they want more for it. And this goes back to the owner-producer mindset that we have talked about on this podcast ad nauseum, right? But producers chase opportunities and owners allocate resources. This is one of those things that Shane and I kind of talked about this morning in our one-on-one call. And that if you are constantly chasing those one-off things, then that is just not scalable. And I think maybe that's how you figure out okay, who are my 20%? What am I doing? And you start to ask yourself questions like, is this scalable? Is this repeatable? And if it's not scalable and if it's not repeatable, you probably don't need to be doing it.
Yeah. If you can get to that 20% that drives 80% of your revenue and get rid of that 20% of your revenue that's making you, 80% of your activity. If you can get there and identify, then you really just want more of that 20%, right? Like how do you get more of those? And this applies to commercial lines in a similar way. I mean, you could have a very large account, but you may not have their comp. You may only have their GL. You may have a $50,000 commercial auto policy, but for whatever reason, they won't give you the rest of their business. That's going to apply here too. I mean, it's big premium dollars and you may go, well, I'll live with it. And that's okay. Like I'm not going to try to tell you that that's going to hurt you necessarily, but as you try to scale and grow, it's going to hurt you. Like it's going to cause you problems. Really interesting, funny story. And this isn't picking on one class of business. It's just the class that it actually happened on. One of our producers here that I guess they're about 8 years in now, happens to be my brother-in-law. It happens to all of us, right? It happened to me as a young producer. He got into, just by happenstance, like he got into riding towing trucks for a little bit. And one tow truck turned into a referral, 2 or 3 other tow trucks. And so these towing companies, and they were really good premiums, like, really good premiums. And so it was very attractive. And what he started noticing is how heavy servicing oriented they were. And then he started noticing at the first renewal, every single one of them was just shopping him, shopping with other agents. I mean, it was like nuts. Like it was just so much work. And I remember him coming into my office after writing, 15 or 20 of these accounts, and then having to fight for dear life to keep the 15 to 20 accounts, and I bet he only kept half the first year. And by the end of the second year, I think he was down to 1 or 2. So he literally comes down and he's like, I don't think I'm going to write any more towing wrecker services. I'm like, I don't blame you. Like, I get it. And it was one of those situations where I didn't want to say, hey, don't do that, because it's one of those areas where it's really easy to say, hey, don't do that. But until you actually go through that experience, people don't necessarily believe what other people are telling them. Like, that's the problem with mentorship. Like, I have great mentors in my life through the years. Some of the best lessons I learned was doing the things the mentor told me not to do. And then I went and did it. And then
I tell me not to do all the time.
I know, I found out, right? And then it's like, oh, hey, I found out. Here we go. And so, yeah, Mike does that all the time. And so it's one of these things that I don't know if a shortcut is good, but you want to pay attention and you want to try to identify it as soon as possible so that your learning curve can be shortened.
The book that the cute boy and I were listening to on Blink was the 80/20 Principle by Richard Koch. And he just flat out said what Mike said a little while ago isn't possible, and just stop doing the unproductive 80%. That the real leverage comes when you just eliminate it and not try to optimize it, right? That so many times that we try to make it better, and that true success comes when you just eliminate it altogether. And it talked about how some people will confuse that with essentialism, which is a book that our leadership team read in 2025, which I really love, which focuses on doing less. And it was about discernment and about boundaries, where this 80/20 principle is just cut the dead weight and just absolutely stop doing them. Stop doing the tasks that don't move revenue, and stop servicing those relationships that drain our teams.
Yeah, I think it's fear. Salespeople, I'm one. I'm a recovering salesperson.
Let me know how that goes for you.
I know. It's not going well. So I think it's fear of missing the opportunity. Like, we're so opportunity focused. And what's really funny is when we don't have that opportunity, or we let that opportunity go, like, okay, I'm going to let this pass. It doesn't fit into my bucket. It doesn't fit into my 20% bucket. That's going to give me my best opportunities and my best productivity. So I'm just going to say, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to tell the prospect no. We work so hard to get the prospect. It's anti-sales, I guess, in our brains, to actually say no to a prospect who wants to do business with us. But if that prospect doesn't fit into our success bucket, for lack of a better term, then we actually should say no. But we have a really, really difficult time doing that.
And I think there's also a certain measure of hubris involved as well. Like, oh, okay, that someone else couldn't write those, but I can. Yeah. And I can do it better than they did. But then you have to learn that lesson.
Yeah. One of the best comical versions of what you just said is, the prospect calling in with this really weird thing. Like, hey, we live in a lake area retirement community. So we have a lot of people build cabins up around the lake, a couple of different lakes from Houston or Dallas or whatever. And, we randomly sometimes will get that call, or that person stop by and say, hey, I built this cabin, this fishing cabin, and, starts describing this cabin, and it's basically uninsurable. This is not luxury cabin stuff. Like it's terrible. And
He found
you're
some
like,
pallets and he
Yeah.
decided to build a hut kind of thing.
yeah, or like a converted shipping container, but not the one you see on social media that looks like, you know, like it was, you know, Frank, what is the you know, Frank Wright or whatever. Anyway, so it's like, it's not that. It's just terrible. It's the polar opposite of that. And they walk and you know, and I've had people before that were like, they're chasing their tail trying to find a carrier that will actually write this account. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, the first question you should have asked is, where's your primary insurance? And then when they said whoever it was with in Houston, you should have said, best thing you can do is call them. That's it. Like, or, hey, we'll look at your entire account and then we'll tell you this is an uninsurable fishing cabin in the end, but we can't do this. And there's a reason why they're coming to us for that one weird, crazy thing. And it's not because they think we're better. It's because somebody that handles their primary insurance told them they couldn't do it.
So let me throw this curveball at you. For someone who's listening and said, well, that's great since you brought up Houston. That's great. That's all fine if you are an agent in Houston or New York City or Atlanta. But what if I am in a super rural area? Now what do I do when the pool of prospects is so much smaller?
In
All
other
right.
words, you're in Huntington, Texas.
That's right. All right. So for the listeners that do not have the visual, Huntington, Texas population city limit sign says 2,080. Okay. So just for frame of reference here. And our school district has a population of about 10,000. So fairly small, very rural, very much protection class 10 for all the insurance people. So very difficult stuff in most of the cases. This is where our monoline auto or monoline policy concept came from, is because instead of saying no, we said yes because of the grocery store effect. We call it the grocery store effect. If the reality of it in small towns and rural areas, you're going to see that person in the grocery store. And so telling them that you don't want to do business with them, or telling them in a roundabout way that you don't want to do business with them, doesn't feel so good when they're related to 40 people you know. Okay. When the trees supposedly forked and then grew back together in certain parts of the country. Do y'all know what I'm talking about there? So you know, that happens in certain parts of the United States. And so when you have these scenarios, when there's all these family and all these people you know, and maybe you go to church with them, this is where you get into this, we'll do it, but we're going to do it in the most efficient way that we can, right? So using the monoline auto, I'm going to say, we're going to pick a carrier that's super efficient for us, that checks all of our efficiency buckets, that we know we're not going to have claims problems out of. And we're going to say, you have to be on EFT. We're going to only present EFT to you, like credit card, recurring credit card, or electronic funds. We're not going to take cash. We're not going to do the things that we need, you know, that are going to create other stumbling blocks down the line. And then if you cancel with them because you don't pay your premium, we'll try to get you reinstated. But if you cancel and they won't reinstate you, we can requote you with that same company until a time that company says, we don't want to write them anymore. And at that point, you burned your own bridges and you got to go somewhere else. That's all we can do for you. So we've built kind of some boundaries or moats around this small town rural scenario that's given our people permission to help, but within reason. Like, it's not like help perpetually for the people who won't help themselves. And
But
that's
not something we tell clients, right? We
no,
don't we're only going to put you with this one person. We're only going to do this. I just wanted to clarify that for our listeners. This isn't information that we necessarily share with the client. This is what we do internally to make our process work.
Yeah, this is internal policy, right? Not communication outwardly, not public communication. This is setting boundaries internally, explaining and coaching your people about what you do want to write so that you don't spend all your energy on the things you don't want to write. However, to Mike's point, in small town, in rural America, it's very difficult to just say no, or to just do it in such a way that runs off a prospect that comes to your doorstep. And so finding ways to do it profitably. I love this saying my dad had years ago. I was really young. I haven't always used it well, but I always try to remember it. And it was kind of this small town nature. He was a small town banker, and he dealt with this a lot. And his answer was, don't stop doing it. Just go up on your price, whatever that might be. Go up on your price until you like doing it. And so versions of going up on your price could be go with one carrier, right? Make your, or do it in such a way that, you can charge a fee. All right. So we can put agency fee, or we can do something on those accounts that is perfectly legal. And it's something that we can do. And you obviously need to check with your state Department of Insurance, because there may be some states out there that have some regulations around that. There may be disclosures you need to make, but there are ways that you can do this to where you go up on your price, so to speak, to the point that you like your process and you don't mind doing the one-off policies.
Yeah. So you mentioned it briefly there, but just if you could expand on that a little bit. So is usually the course of action to go with one carrier, go MGA? How do you generally handle that?
I generally, based on the type of business it is or the class of business that we're dealing with, is it a secondary home like the cabin example, or is it a monoline auto account? Whatever it is, yes, there's generally a very, very narrow carrier option or market option. And that doesn't mean it's one single carrier for everything, because that doesn't exist. But it means it's a handful of carriers, of markets that will cover the gamut, right? And that we can build really efficient processes around those things. Because here's the reality. That business probably makes up less than 10% of your revenue, not even 20% of your revenue.
Yeah. And one place where you will not have an intersection is having a specific carrier for each specific thing and success.
Right.
They're not going to intersect.
And so at that point, yes, I'm going to a big wholesaler that handles everything, because it's their sort of specialty they handle all that mess, and they're so large. I'll use like a Burns and Wilcox, right? They're national in scope. They have such big leverage reach across classes, personal lines, commercial lines. I use on the personal line side, I think about carriers like Progressive, who have a rate for pretty much everything. They're going to charge you, if you come in a non-standard specialty auto arena, no prior insurance because you let it lapse. I mean, no, that's not Progressive's bread and butter anymore, or Geico's bread and butter anymore, but they're going to give a rate for it. And that rate at the specialty non-standard auto agency across town might be half, or it might even be less than that. but I don't want that business. But if that customer wants to pay $5,000 instead of $2,500 because they want to do it with us on EFT, that's what I'm giving them, right? Because my efficiency on those situations as an agency owner are way more important than is it the best price, right? That's just the reality.
It is so easy to say yes. And we talk to agents and they tend to want to focus on, okay, what's the right thing? What is the thing that I should be doing? And to me, that's not where your focus needs to be, because you're going to say yes to those things. The focus needs to be about saying no to everything else. And when you get to the point that you can say, okay, these are the things that I want to say no to, then you're thinking like an agency owner.
Yeah. And I think that transition is the hardest, right? Like we talk about it all the time. It is very difficult to transition from producer to owner, from sales person to owner. Solopreneurs have to wear both hats and know which hat they have on for which situation. And that takes time. It's doable. We have partners in our agency network that are doing it. We have I am that. Like I was a salesperson, producer day one, and I spent several years producing, doing the things that every agency owner that was a producer first does. And I made those mistakes, and these are learned things. Like every one of these behaviors is a learned behavior, and it can be learned.
I just wanted to say, also, you're an agency owner or something like that. Sometimes you got to do things you don't like to do, right? Like sometimes you got to say no. Sometimes you got to play injured. I didn't even tell you guys this, but there was a battle here in my house last night and I lost. It was between myself and the ninja of all viruses, the neuro.
Oh no.
This sucker comes up on you fast.
Yeah.
And the amount of pain it inflicts upon you is substantial.
Wow. Okay. I don't want that.
But you got to gut it out.
Literally.
Yes.
Literally gut it out.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm here. That's the bottom line.
All right.
Robbie's not, but you are.
Yeah.
That is right. What is
should,
going on here?
I think that should be noted that you showed up after, a rough evening, rough night, and Robbie just took vacation. I'm gone. I'm out. I'll see y'all on the flip side.
I will. You know what? I'm going to let him know.
That's awesome.
Well, I think this is his third strike. I mean, this is 3 episodes in a row that he has not joined us.
Yeah. I mean, we do have to give him a little grace. I mean, a couple of those were unexpected, right? This was actually the only expected miss. So the other 2 were a little bit out of his control. In his defense, I'll defend him.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens next week.
That's right.
Tune in next week to see.
The Robbie saga continues. That's right.
Well, I'm going to leave us today with this quote from Serena Williams. You can't be distracted by noise. You have to focus on what matters.
Attitude's a choice. Make a great one.
At the Integra Partner Network, we understand that carrier access is the key to your agency's success. That's why Integra offers direct access to top-rated personal and commercial carriers, ensuring your agency thrives in today's challenging market. And with our comprehensive resources, profit sharing and bonus opportunities, technology and peer support, all while you retain 100% of your book with no penalties to exit. Integra is ready to empower you and your agency to find sustained growth. Find your way to Integra. Visit IntegraPartnerNetwork.com today. That's IntegraPartnerNetwork.com.